Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of IIPC Talks. I'm your host Anirban, a member of the student body of IIPCL KGAC. Today we are very much delighted to host Jibak. He is a 2014 pass out of KGAC. Jibak is currently working as a data scientist at Sanofi. In this very episode, we have a chance to know about his journey and his advice with the fellow students of KGAC. So, Jibogda, a very warm welcome in our IIPC talks, and thank you very much for taking out some time from your busy schedule.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and glad and honored to be here. I'm looking forward to have a great chat.
It's our pleasure. In the very first place, please tell us about your journey from CAC batch at KGC to data scientist in Sanofi.
Yeah, so I graduated as you said in 2014. So I am a hostelier firstly. So I have stayed like my entire college tenure in hostels only. I was in Vidyasagar Chhatrabas, and then I graduated in 2014, and I was placed in a campus placement in Ericsson. So I joined in the Kolkata location. So gladly there were Ericsson has a lot of, I would say, good projects in terms of like gaining technical knowledge and kind of stuff. So that's why I was like very lucky to be in a team to who was whose primary responsibility was to kind of support in the process of like data science implementation in the production, right? So I got into that space, so that quite helped me in like getting a holistic understanding of the whole data science process that was existing at that point of time, right? Because it is evolving, what you have seen in like 2014 15, it's not at all relevant maybe in some cases, right? The trends in the artificial intelligence and machine learning especially. So that is why I think I got into that space, and I mean the practical applicability of mathematics, if you say, in the field of computer science and this like statistical knowledge, whatever you may call it, because it's an amalgamation of various domain and various streams, right? Data science is not a property right to like the computer science engineer or engineer or like the statistician. So everybody works in this particular field. So practical applicability of like the high school math, like linear algebra, probability statistics, that quite I mean amazed me at that point of time, because whatever we have learned in terms of so I was in computer science and engineering. So that's why we were primarily thinking as a like industry. So you have a perception while you join, because you don't have like that knowledge where what is happening in the industry, right? So as a computer science engineering, what we had thought, we'll be developing web application, and I'm talking about my personal experience, we'll be like developing some application, so to say, right? But when you see that your intuition works in a very intelligent manner, right, in the field of data science, because it is not something you have to achieve, you have to develop some functionality or some that kind of stuff. That is not the end goal of any data science exercise or task, right? So that quite amazed me, because it has its practical impact, impeccability in the real world. And it's you can think of a plethora of application using this kind of concept, because this was not previously explored. It was explored obviously. If you just Google about the history of artificial intelligence, it is since from the Turing machine. Actually, the Turing machine itself is a concept of a complete machine. So basically, but the practical applicability started from 2004. I would say 9, 10, in a sense, right? I mean, so basically, I was, part of that team, and then I like gain little knowledge because it's a vast area to know about. Okay, I gain like very little knowledge of bits and pieces, and then I try to like fit all the pieces. And then actually gradually when I progressed in my career, so basically in my earlier days I was doing both big data kind of stuff. The regular big data development, what you say, like ETL jobs, developing ETL jobs, those kind of stuff, as well as like I was gaining idea from the senior data scientist in the team, what's the whole data science process is like. So that helped me, to progress my career in a certain direction, where I was like part of Deloitte and PwC. So basically, then I gradually moved to the core data science part of it. So basically, where at earlier where I was like taking guidance from the data scientist, I personally wanted to see at that position, and I gained my knowledge and kind of yeah. So currently, I'm quite like I would say that the kind of work, because once you move from a consulting world to the product world, it's the applications or of the MLs are really you would get an understanding that this is quite something that you are building. You will be so that is what I would say. That point of time, that so the baseline is the math behind data science, and its practical applicability in the real world has like driven me in this particular career progression, I would say.
Thank you. Thank you. Uh, so, have you taken any course on data science or you just self-taught yourself?
Course, as in, if you say like course, I have done, but no certification in that sense. Okay, course, there are like plenty of courses, right now. If you just search thoroughly, you will get like I would say close to like 2 million courses for data science. Just a rough guess, like that's a guesstimate. I might be very wrong, but course I have done. For like gaining little knowledge about some tool, maybe. Okay, or some particular some particular stuff, but I have not done any certification other than some Coursera certification, which were like very helpful in gaining deep learning knowledge. So I think like everybody like in the current who are the current students can also enroll for that. There is a uh, course from for the deep learning specialization in Coursera. So that's a very helpful course to like. It's a very I forgot the name of the course instructor actually. He was a very famous one, like apart from Yan LeCun and those guys. So that's the certification I have done. That's the full deep learning specialization.
Okay. So, do you suggest a fresher to do some certification course or just build his technical knowledge by doing some, you have just said Coursera course or reading books
Actually, that is quite subjective, I would say. Okay, because like you have
from a
to
job
take uh,
from a
from
job prospectus maybe?
yeah, from a job perspective, then I would say for a fresher, a certification would be much more helpful in terms of like showing capabilities. Or substitute for that would be a good GitHub projects that a student can put in, right? So if the it's not like that some very basic like it can be a very basic classification problem, but the data you choose and the like the practical implementation you think about that particular problem should be interesting enough to like please the target audience or the recruiters, so to say.
Okay. So you have been a solution integrator in Ericsson and then a business technology analyst in Deloitte. So what is the main difference in between these jobs or in your job experience?
Okay, so I'll start by solution integrator as per chronology. So as you know, I was a graduate engineer trainee. That's what they called in Ericsson actually. Okay, so I mean, I was a fresher and I ventured into the professional world, right? And Ericsson is a company, I mean, is a very good one, I would say, from in terms of the, I mean, everything. In terms of, the technical knowledge gaining, or it's a very good company, and I gained a lot from my seniors over there. I mean, they were, I mean, in a sense, very geeky people I have met. I mean, in my entire career journey, right? I mean, they were really geeky. They only understand about the work they do. There was no, I mean, there was very less kind of a, the corporate structure, I would say, in that sense. And I felt, I mean, very little because I was very junior. I was a fresher, nobody. I mean, I was not able to maybe intercept the whole thing. I mean, that might be the case. And then I joined Deloitte. So basically in Ericsson, I got transferred from Kolkata to Bangalore. So that's what like exposed me. I mean, as you we must have like the mark. I mean, the opportunities are much higher in this South India, especially, right, Bangalore. So basically, after that, I joined Deloitte as a business technology analyst, and I was like involved in both. Again, there in both data science and big data space. Okay, so actually, I mean, if you see from a like project perspective at that particular point of time, especially in the consulting world. So as like Deloitte is a consulting company, was, I mean, the big data projects were more in numbers, right? So that's why I was more being pushed to the big data space. But as I said, my particular interest was in data science. So I wanted to do like full time data science. So that's what what me. I mean. Uh, uh, to take me another opportunity in PwC. So there I was like a part of the core data science team, and I was responsible for like not for developing, but designing the whole AI system and kind of implement it wherever applicable. So in the consulting world, the data science scenario is there are like 70 to 60 to 70% POCs, right? Proof of concept, and maybe 30 to 20% get translated to the real production value. Okay, so I was like involved in that particular process in PwC, and then so I really wanted to move where we are using real life problems. So basically, in consulting world, what the business is the main driver over there in the driver's seat, right? So whatever problem you face are mostly oriented to business problems. So you have to solve those kind of problems. It may be a financial problem or a like optimization problem. I wanted to move where it's a real life problem. So I thought at because it was a COVID span, right? The pharmaceutical and the healthcare industry is the I mean it's a place where already if you are like a little bit aware of the industry, the digitization process has like swiped through the world in every other company, whether it may be pharmaceutical, manufacturing. Everybody is trying to leverage as much as they can from the AI ML, or so to say the digital world. The digitization happened, right? So so that also helped me to like find the right opportunity and kind of grab it. And so that's the what been the journey is.
When did you feel that you should learn data science?
Oh, that's a funny story actually. Yeah, I remember. So, so basically, at the there is a kind of not, I would say, so there is a, when you get into a company as a fresher, you get a certain period to just enjoy your like onboarding and kind of stuff, because you are yet to be placed to each of the projects and kind of stuff. And so there were some projects in so data warehousing at that point of time was a very widely used thing for, especially for reporting things. right? So businesses used to do a lot of, I mean, RDBMS stuff, and so basically process all data, do some ETL, and I mean prepare some report, maybe for like business data or for, I mean, any other data coming from. So I was so asked about two projects to join in. One is this a project in data warehousing, and another was a project uh, was also in data warehousing, but it was in the Informatica. If you have heard about it, it's a tool. I mean, it's a ETL tool basically. That is, I mean, enterprise ETL tool. So then in this particular project that I talked about earlier, had a so I heard a rumor that there is some big data around it. Okay, and at that particular time the big data was a like really good buzzword. Okay, and I was like, I have to see what's in there. And what they have proposed, the senior members of the team, that there would be a kind of a uh, PL exam, okay, to get into the project. There were like 5 6 people, and each one have to take exam, and according to the like their evaluation or something, they will pick for each of the projects. Okay, then I was like, I have to get into it. Then that was in Monday or something. I don't exactly remember. So I studied for, so whatever I studied the DBMS in third year, but I again just, I mean, brushed up my things, and I have to get into this big data project. And then the yeah the I mean the test was good, I would say. And the lead from that particular team called me that you'd be working in this big data project, and I was very happy. Okay, and so that big data project has a part. So basically, there are three steps. There were three stages to it. One is the raw data, which is coming from the network station. Ericsson is a networking company, right? So there are like lots of machine logs and kind of stuff that are, I mean, accumulated. And then there were these. So from those, you can like kind of interpret, the subject matter expert can interpret the performance of a particular network in a particular time, right? So that was the essential process. There was this huge bulk of data, raw unprocessed data. Then you pass into some ETL methods, and then you have this like visualization, I mean, reporting thing, where you need like SQL capabilities. So that was the particular piece of work that was assigned to me. I mean, I was part of the team, but I mean, upper in the ladder, there was this big data thing where this whole data science things were implemented in the on-site, especially. Okay, so there were teams from the North American region where there were like senior data scientists. So I used to get into the like repo and kind of development repo, and used to kind of check what is happening over there. and and so basically there were like a lot of Spark involved to it, if you know about it. PySpark, I mean, the Spark from Databricks. So that particular time, it was not Databricks Spark, but it was only Apache Spark, as far as I remember. So it was only open source. There was no like enterprise version of it. So and so basically that was the thing. I mean, got to see that there are like lot of thing under the hood that are going on to, I mean, come up with this extraordinary solution. What I thought at that point of time. Yeah. So that I mean, what do I say? Influenced me to delve deeper into the codes and what are the methodology used. Maybe reach out to the senior team members. So I used to sometimes. So there were like, I mean, we used to work, in shifts, right, to overlap between the US time and the Sweden time. So basically, I used to stay like, so there were like multiple cab services that were there. Okay, so so if you miss particular slot, you have to wait till the next slot. Maybe there is a slot of cab in 8:30, and if you miss that, the next slot is in 10 or something. Okay, but sometimes I intentionally missed that because I had to like interact with the on-site and all. So that only can be possible if you are in like at that particular time zone, right? So I intentionally miss that and try to understand what are the things that are actually going in. So yeah, I would say, I mean, I got lucky and I got into data science.
Okay. Uh, So in Sanofi, you are a data science at real world evidence hub. Will you please tell us about what does it mean?
Okay, so evidence means medical evidence. What are the medical evidence? Suppose I'll take a very simple example. Suppose you have a fever, okay, and the medical expert doesn't know that what kind of fever it is. It may be COVID, it may be influenza, it may be any other disease. I mean, a fever for that matter, right? But they start treating you. I mean, assuming, I mean, as per their best of their knowledge, like this is a particular fever, and they start treating you using some medications or something, right? But there is a probability that it you may get cured or you may not get cured. So that I talked about a slice of this event period, right? So you have a disease. You, I mean, the medical experts are trying to cure you, see, using some medication or something. That is medical evidence. That is the data of medical evidence. And real world evidence means the data we work for is from the real world. The, I mean, EHRs installed in like various healthcare institution, various healthcare organizations, they store real data, right, about people, about me, about you and I. So that is the real world evidence thing. So I mean, if that helps, I mean, that is real world evidence in a sense.
Okay, thank you. Uh, so how does a data scientist approach a problem?
Again, it's a very subjective thing, but yeah, that's a, I mean, in a very, on a very high level, I would say, I would, I mean, tell this answer in a like funnier way, as much as possible. Before diving into any problem, you should be like checking what's the data availability. Okay, so if there is no data, you can be, I mean, brainstorm about what's the hypothesis, maybe what's the objective, maybe. But if there is not sufficient data, you will not be able to achieve anything. In the real, I mean, in a practical sense, 1,000 rows of I mean data in a Excel sheet doesn't help in implementing any of the data science. So whether you have data is a very crucial thing, and then what you try to do, you have, so essentially as a data scientist you will have a domain expert, a subject matter expert, and a data science expert as you, as a like AI or ML expert who will like I mean design the solution, right? So you have to interpret the business problem in a collaborative fashion, that what the business problem actually is and how it translates to an actual hypothesis or an actual ML problem, right? And what the data that you have, I mean, you like the business problem might get translated through something for which you don't have sufficient data. That will not also help, right? So you have to be in synergy with both of these facts, right? Like what's the data that you have at hand, and what's the business problems is, and you have to work with the subject matter expert and the domain expert to see whether you can come up with some, I mean, hypothesis or how something which can help you design using existing algorithm. All right, so that is the thought process on a very high level, I would say. If, I mean, I follow personally for any data science project.
So, what skill does a data scientist need the most? Does a data scientist need to be better at statistics than a software engineer, or better at software engineering than a statistician or mathematician?
That's the question I'm trying to find answers myself well. I mean, that's a very, I mean, good, I mean, good and very, I mean, controversial question, I would say. So, I mean, that depends. Okay. I mean, everything. So, and as I said at the very beginning, it's evolving. I mean, you are not very sure what will happen to this industry just to after 2 years. I mean, today there is already GPT-3, right? So GPT-3 can write code. So if you just tell about a functionality, it may be like front end or back end, whatever. I mean, as far as I know. So I have seen the demonstration for like JavaScript and kind of stuff. So you have to just tell what's the interface have to, and GPT-3 will write the code for you, right? So I mean, you don't know where the industry is going. So I mean, if anyone is truly interested or in this field, so he should be like, I mean, try to, I mean, take a snapshot of each of these things, whatever you said, right? The statistics, and figure out what interests him or her most, right? Maybe someone has taken statistics. So I am from a Bengal board, right? So statistics was like, at our time there was like additionally we have to take for the 10th examination, right? So somebody might have like taken statistics, and they find this like link in the, I mean, data science field, and that interests them. I mean, that is quite good, right? So, uh, but obviously, some basic concepts from each of the things are. I mean, you will never know what actually, I mean, a regression problem is if you don't have the basic statistical knowledge about it, right? So, I mean, but I mean, and I think at today's world, I mean, everything can be backtracked using Google. So, like, you just have to search about one term, like whatever you don't know, you will, if you have the like time and the interest to know about it, you will know. So, I mean, so, and yeah, for I mean, a career progression thing, or like to choose it as a career, I mean, candidate or the aspirant must have to choose what a particular field of thing. Like right now, I work mostly in natural language processing, because those, I mean, stuff interested me more than other, like maybe so like there are like several things, right? Time series forecasting, so to say, or computer vision is a very exciting field. But I mean, that, I mean, as I was more like inclined towards NLP in my projects, my particular career progression right now is in NLP. So that is what I mean. First, you have to get familiar with the basic for everything, then figure out what your interest is, and then act accordingly, I would say.
Okay. So we often heard about data engineering. So what's the difference between data engineering and data science in general?
That's an excellent question. And yeah, so data engineering is a very vast thing, again, same as data science. But it essentially, where it comes in the picture, I'll tell you, it essentially helps to build the features. If you know about the features, what are the features? So if you are like building a model to predict anything, so the variables that you would use for this particular prediction are called features, right? So that's where this data engineering thing comes in, right? And that is why it is pretty essential, because unless and until you build a strong feature for your model, right, you won't be able to I mean, develop a robust and a general solution for any problem, right? So data engineering, the again, like I know very little of it. Okay, I mean, it mainly, I mean, actually, on a like practical note, it is more inclined towards the software development practice of thing, right? So you have to adhere to, I mean, even today, I mean, data science is also, I mean, capturing that particular process. I mean, the essential software development practices are slowly being implemented in every domain and every like space. But the thing is, data engineering, I mean, from much before was inclined towards that in a practical sense. And it is more like closely, I mean, related to kind of, I mean, ETL kind of thing, I would say, in my perception.
Should we give equal importance to machine learning operations as learning data pre-processing or creating machine learning models?
I'll take this in a top bottom approach. Okay. So if you know about ML, you have to know about what a independent variable is, what a dependent variable is. I mean, for like, I mean, predictive modeling, I would say, if ML is a very generic term, right? It's just machine learning, right? So, I mean, for that, what you have to understand that all these are consisting of data, right? This is so essentially in a database table, the target variable is one column, and all the other that you use is other columns in a table, right? In a very crude manner, if you say. Uh, so, but how does this data, I mean, this data can be translated into a particular predictive model? For that, you need to understand data processing, because if you feed so basically if you just take a table from RDPMS and just feed into some algorithm, it will not work. It will just throw some random results, right? So at that particular of time, even if you like have, I mean, just assume that you have done that, I mean, just taken a table and I mean fed into a like ML model, just by just interpreting the result, you have to understand the metrics, and once you understood the metrics, you have to then debug the whole thing in a sense, right? Where the things are going wrong. Then you will essentially come to this part: does this data is being fed to the model as this? Maybe I process it like this. I do a little bit of EDA. I see if it's a like contain. I mean, it's a real number kind of a data. What's the distribution of it? Okay, so you that's where, I mean, that's why I said I take this in a top-down approach. So if you have this problem, you just by a random chance of probability just implemented this model using raw data, you will have to dig down to this step of data processing, that how can I augment this thing better to achieve my goal.
Okay. Okay. So you have switched three companies. How crucial is that for a good professional career?
Yeah, that's what do I say? I mean, tough question for me at least, because it's again, I mean, according to my perception and my subjectivity, right? So, I would say, I mean, it depends on the work you are doing, right? So, I mean, if you see, I mean, I haven't changed. I mean, at the very early of my career, as I said, I worked in Ericsson and I liked that company very much, right? But I gradually so moved into the consulting world. But in the consulting world, so that's a main difference you have to understand, right? So consulting creates its business by providing services to their other clients. But in case of product companies, that is not the case. They are trying to build something in house. So the, I mean, effort is not of delivering something, but to create something which will add real value, right? So that is where, like, so if you see in the middle of my career, I had to jump between consulting companies to see and experience that thing, right? But again, I when I so that's the thing. You have to understand this whole I mean process of things. I had to like jump, so that's a inevitable thing that I have to incorporate, right? So I mean, career progression is also, I mean, you are going through it, not like you have experienced it previously. So that is where maybe I had to. But the thing is that really depends on the kind of work that you are doing, and the kind of career path you want to look forward.
Okay, so in case of switching a company, is it only about consulting firm or product-based company, or should we keep in mind the name of the company?
Everything. I mean, if you have to opt out between I mean, if you have the opportunity to opt out, then definitely you will maybe as much as you, I mean, you like brainstorm about a ML problem. If you have like multiple opportunities, you they would do about their work as well. I mean, what interests you more, what suits you best. But yeah, in a broader manner, that's the I mean, I would say product and the consulting, especially for the, I mean, the ones who are coming from the tech, I mean, the engineering background, right? I mean, we get into this space using our degree, which is in like technical in nature. I mean, there are like several data scientists who did bioinformatics and kind of they did done their PhD. I mean, in statistics, right? But for us, for engineers, yeah, the space is limited to. I mean, not limited. I would say very broadly categorized into this. I mean, space. And obviously, I mean, if you have the chance to work in a product, my personal recommendation would be to go for a product based company. But yeah, consulting has its own, I mean, consulting is a very, I mean, essential skill in itself. Okay, consulting is a very big term in the industry, and it will, I mean, remain. So if your interest, I mean, that particular field, I mean, field of work interests you, I mean, that is also what you can opt for.
Okay. Uh, so you have faced many interviews in your career. Best question or challenging question that you have faced in interview?
Okay, you asked about like best or challenging. What should I say? I mean,
If those are different, please tell us both the
both.
questions.
Okay, okay, sure. So I mean the funny one I remember is for the Deloitte one. Okay, so there are like so basically there was a mass drive that was going on. Okay, in the Deloitte campus of it is very near to HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Okay, HAL campus. It is just adjacent to the HAL campus. HAL, I mean this wall actually. So I was there. I mean, so the recruiter called me and told me to get into the I mean Deloitte premises within like 9 or 9:30, I guess. But and there are like a lot of people, okay, for the interview and all. And they took some time to screen your resumes actually. I mean, you have to group them to send to particular interview room because it's a March drive, right? So from that time around 10 to 2:30 I didn't even like get one call from, I mean, come, your interview is in this room or something like that, right? But around 2:30 some HR called me, and then I got into the like first round of technical, and then the second round of technical, and gradually to the managerial round. Okay, so the manager, I mean, as it happens, it's a very, I mean, pleasant, I mean, experience. You like mostly in like technical roles in managerial interviews, it happens to be very easy one, just a casual chit chat kind of thing. Okay, so he called me in a room, and and then he was going through my CV, and he said, "It's so impressive resume." And I said, "Thank you, sir." Then he said, "How did you come up with this?" Okay, and then I mean, so basically, sometimes you synthesis answer. I mean, in real time, right? What should you answer? But I mean, nothing came up because what I have done was like uh, got the template from some senior, okay, and kind of like just, I mean, the especially the generic sections, right? What's the carry, I mean, those sections are like I have used that template, and nothing came up in my mind to like cover that. Okay, I mean, something. So I told I got it from senior, the template, and like I modified as per my, I mean, career, as per my skill set. Then he said, "Oh, okay, okay," and he laughed. So that's a like funny, I mean, interview experience, I would say. And the one of the most challenging one, yep, I can think of one interview for which I was not selected actually. So this was for, I guess, one of the startups in Bangalore. Okay, so what they have said that you have a and this was like quite some time back. Okay, like 2 3 years back. While I was in Bangalore or something like that. So they asked me, like, suppose you have a, I mean, a retail store, and you have some items that are like very close to expiry date, and you have to launch a like kind of a offering campaign for those particular products, which will like obviously increase the throughput of those individual sales, right? So how do you approach this problem? Then so basically what I had to think of, like what kind of data are available, and the question is not something like you have to just come up with something to push one campaign. The campaign will be multifold. Okay, so that's essentially what the question was. Okay, so it can be like how can you like maximize this whole output. Okay, I mean you have to campaign in such way, and how do you like think of this problem, or how do you approach this problem? So that is quite a, I mean, because you already, I mean, once you start a, so this is the very initial question actually in, okay, and once you start interview, it was like the nervous, I mean nervousness comes in, I mean very inherently, right? So I mean once you face this question, I was like, this is challenging, man, this is very challenging. Okay, so that is one of the challenging question. I tried to answer in it my way, but yeah, that was, I think, not very sufficient. And I also, I mean, somehow, I mean, got that gut feeling that yeah, this is not something. is, I mean, very good. I would say if I was in the I was to evaluate this one.
Okay. So, being a data scientist, can you please tell us about your day-to-day responsibilities? Like you do coding a lot or try to figure out some statistics models or.
Mhm. So there is no data, sorry, day-to-day work, so to say. So I mean everything. So it depends on the kind of. So basically, everything in my current organization, everything is in agile mode. Okay, so the sprint that you are going in, that's the most important thing. So if you like, if you are working in a developing a feature branch which is very complex, right? So I mean that will need a lot of coding maybe, and whether you are working at the last stage and last sprints, maybe last few sprints, and you have kind of a, I mean, just to deploy, I mean, the CI/CD, you have to create the CI/CD pipeline, deploy, do some testing and kind of stuff. At that point of time, yeah, coding is there. And so the validation, as you said, the as you asked about the statistical modeling part, right? So the stages over, I mean, in my current organization is something like you do, I mean, so there are like real medical experts who are sitting, right? Who are the subject matter expert and the domain expert. They know what the, I mean, business goal is, or like any research goal is for that matter. It's not only business goals, it's also research goals, right? So they know what and how does that particular thing translates from the EHR data, right? Those subject matter experts. And maybe there is, so you have to, then you got to know about this particular problem, right? And then when you are like, so you have to see how can you approach this. There might be numerous, like a lot of literature that are existing which have already covered this maybe, or you are trying something like to just I mean you use a part concept from any of the literature which might be helpful, right? And try to do your own thing, right? So at that point of time, statistical validation, when you are doing this, I mean, once you got and finalized, you have, I mean, green flag from the business and the subject matter expert. When you are deploying these things, the coding thing is more in, I mean, coding thing more comes into our plate. And when you are in this, I mean, designing this whole thing, or trying to solve that particular research goal or business goal in the ML way or the AI way, in that particular on in those sprints, you have more of a statistical validation, those kind of stuff.
Okay. Okay. So can you please share your experience in Sanofi?
Yeah, so I guess I have pretty much covered that. I mean, like I am so, but yeah, I'll tell you. So, yes, this is my. So I have been in some. So in Deloitte, I was been in some pharma project. Okay, but I was not. I mean, essentially, I mean, I have worked for any pharma company, so to say. So I mean, the whole I mean importance, the kind of work that your organization is doing, you'll get to know that, right? I mean, it's about healthcare, it's about patients, it's about lives, right? So that is where your responsibility. So you might be heard of some buzzword called responsible AI, right? I mean, AI can have adverse effects. As I mean, there are a lot of good effects and adverse effects for that, right? So um, in this particular field, what I have most, I mean, gained, I would say, that how to be a responsible AI practitioner for the greater good of humanity and the greater good of society as a whole, right? So that is, I would say, experience, and obviously, as I like told you earlier, right? I mean, there are a lot of, so you have to basically go through a lot of literature, scientific literature, that are currently happening throughout the, I mean, research space, right? Suppose you are just measuring the efficiency of particular medication, right? Or so that medication has maybe a chemical structure to it. Okay, so and as like sequence modeling and those kind of stuff are like gaining momentum. I mean, a lot of momentum these days. So those kind of stuff are very cutting edge, I would say. And I mean, cutting edge would be state of the art. It's the is the more, I mean, formal term, I would say. So those kind of, so if you have to, I mean, go through them, it's really interesting to work. And if you like, if you're solutioning those kind of stuff, it's really interesting. So that's, I would say, I mean, it's a, I mean, very good experience current now.
Okay. So what do you think, the data scientists in India face underemployment, or there is enough scope in India for the data scientists?
This is again a tough question, I would say. I have to see. I mean, so basically, I mean, I'll be very candid, okay, and informal. So, I mean, what this whole, I mean, career progression has taught me, don't come up with any judgment unless and until have you haven't like I mean got a sense of the data that you are talking about. I don't know any about how many people do work in data science, how many data scientists are there, what's the like supply demand, I mean what's the opportunity, what's the number of skilled people. I mean, I had a rough idea, like sometimes back I might have read some of the like journal or some like medium article or something. I mean, analytics india mag is also like covers this kind of stuff. I mean the business part of how it is doing in india. So I mean I might have read it, but right now I don't have at all any idea what's the, but yeah, I would say companies are gradually trying to build their in-house capabilities in terms of ai, ml and data science, so to say. I mean each and every other company, it's not only like consulting or very tech savvy companies who are picking this up, but even like maybe Jindal Steel firm in Gujarat is using cutting edge ML technology to like in their manufacturing process. And in, you might be actually, I have like got some calls from like word locations, like the, I mean the recruiter used to call me, are you okay with like a remote village in Gujarat? And I was like, no, I'm not okay with that. Okay, so that's the thing. I mean everybody is embracing this particular field of study because it is, as I said, it has a lot of good effects and obviously adverse effects. So you have to be responsible as well.
Okay. So what advice and pro tips would you like to give to your juniors who aspire to take data science as their career?
Yeah, so maybe I mean, take this. No, I mean, I take this a bit long to answer this. Okay, but
Sure.
essentially, I mean, my intention over here is like that everyone gets, I mean, their piece from what I suggest to them, so that everyone can help themselves in developing this skill. So if you are not at all aware about what data science is, what ML is, you go and take off any course or certification which are basic, and which has, I mean, you have to Google. So Googling, I mean, some people disagree that Googling is a skill, I mean, but I personally think Googling is a skill. So you have to Google and see what's the like best course that I can, with my current knowledge, I can do to understand this. And don't try to like at first go into very detailed course like 3 4 months. First try to gain the holistic idea, like what data science is, what hypothesis is, what, I mean, so what, so I'll tell you one personal experience of mine. Okay, so well, I was I mean, partly, I mean, every day is not the same. It cannot happen that in my entire journey, I was every day, I was so enthusiastic about AI ML, because you have like your work pressure, your, personal life, everything, right? So that doesn't happen like you are every day like very enthusiastic to work on ML and stuff. So what happened? So in the very early days, in the Ericsson itself, so while I was trying to gain knowledge about the statistical validation, like hypothesis, right? And what's a null hypothesis is, what p-value is, what r squared is, those very classical statistical things, right? I mean, if you I mean, just after like studying engineering, I mean, and doing some, I mean, especially, I mean, if you are not touch with the statistics thing, because I mean, uh, personally, I would, I mean, say, I mean, I think it is the case of with the most of the students. I don't know about the latest trend, but at our time, we, I mean, the probability, statistics, those kind of stuff, we have just studied for the sake of it, right? I mean, those are pretty conceptual in nature. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, it has a lot of applicability to it when you get to know about it. But when you are studying for like, I mean, an examination or to just cover the syllabus, you don't get the, I mean, sense of it, what it actually is. You just get about the all the jargons, right? I mean, what is this null hypothesis, that kind of a thing. That happened to me as well. So if you take like very detailed courses about anything, suppose for maybe a hypothesis testing, right? And you get to, I mean, you delve deeper into the each of the things, and that might jumble up in your head. So it is better to have a, I mean, clear idea what's, I mean, at the current state, what is the current state of AI and ML. And maybe, and you don't take like very old course as well, because I said, right, I mean, try to, I mean, limit your searches within like maybe 2018, I would say, in that sense, because this field is rapidly evolving. And this is and get that course, and then maybe try to figure out. So, and I mean, this is not a quite easy process again. I mean, trying to figure out what interests you. Maybe then you have to take a deeper look at every piece of it. Okay, so while you will, I mean, get to know about more of AI ML in the recent days, in the, so you will get to know about deep learning, right? And when you hear about deep learning, you will, once you search about deep learning, a broad term deep learning in the Google, you will be in the middle of a ocean. Okay, right? So then you have to see what actually. But I would again say this deep learning, I mean, these things will definitely. So this is a, I mean, advice that I would give. Never ignore classical ML. Classical ML means, which, I mean, deep learning was there. The So if you just search about the back propagation, which is the, I mean, backbone algorithm for deep learning, that has, I mean, that paper has come through long back, but we didn't have the resources and the data to train deep learning models. So that's why it, I mean, gained the momentum, very good momentum from the, I mean, the last decade, I would say, right? So that is the thing. But I mean, uh, those particular thing, I mean, might interest you, but the classical ML, like you will heard about models like SVM, support vector machines, right? So those kind of models were there in the, I mean, in the research field, in the practical field. So all the classical ML. So you'll get to know what the division is, what the categorization is, what I'm like referring to by classical ML, and what is this deep learning and those kind of stuff. So, but I'll personally advise just never go to this. I mean, as it is very, uh, I mean, recent buzzword, deep learning. Just don't go by it. I mean, first study classical ML. It will, I mean, give you the idea. I mean, basic idea of what a hyperparameter is. What, I mean, its tuning is meant to, right? I mean, if you get, so I talked about, I mean, I told you about GPT-3, right? Do you know like how many trainable parameters are there in GPT-3? I forgot. There is like 1.5 billion or something, right? Okay, so I mean, if you don't know about, what a basic, I mean, feature is and what a basic parameter is, maybe in logistic regression, C, you'll get to know. Okay, so what that is, you will not be able to comprehend what this 1.5 billion parameters are doing in this GPT-3, right? So that is why I personally advise everyone to go by the, I mean, classical route, and then just get maybe parallel, in parallel you can start about thinking state of the art, I mean, reading about, because like nowadays, I mean, I guess, I mean, I tend to forget the people's name. Okay, I mean, there was some boy from Kolkata, no, who got very famous for designing very, I mean, 10 years or 12 years boy for designing an AI system. So I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, maybe, the whole this, I mean, the whole field of study is evolving. Maybe people will be able to comprehend, but personally, I think it helps people more to gain the momentum while studying this whole AI ML thing, and in a practical sense as well, especially in India, I would say in like most of the companies, you'll not find very, I mean, productionized model which are, forget about like the FANG, that's what it is called, right? FANG, right? Yeah, FANG companies. I mean, I'm talking about, and FANG and the companies who are like dedicated companies for AI ML. I mean, if you have to get into a company whose primary thing is not ML, who's the like vertical of a particular organization, then you will see that in most of the cases, the productionized model itself are not the deep learning models, but they are the classical models. So okay, so you have to understand those as well to get into the professional world as well. So so that is one thing. So where was I? You completed the course, you get what your interests are, you try to figure out that, and then gradually you will get to know. I mean, I'll also encourage all of, you to basically try cool stuffs as well. I mean, don't be a like very, what do I say, mannered in a way, or very structural. Try to, maybe you have just learned about some basic stuff and you can think of a cool application of it. Just try to build it. There is, I mean, just try to build it and see how it goes. I mean, most of the, I'll say, I mean, tell you, I mean, in this, I mean, if you just take a like sample of this data science project, almost like 60 to 50 to 60%, I would say, projects are like never been to production. They're just, I mean, a study kind of a thing, or POC kind of a thing, right? So you do for yourself as well. I mean, you maybe know a little, but don't try to like cover all the theories and grasp. So basically, once you get to deep learning, okay, there will be so much of stuff that your head will blow up. I mean, if you try to, so you're getting what I'm trying to say. So suppose we have a tendency, I have to complete this syllabus by maybe 2 months, or I have to complete this certification. But maybe if you are really, if your head is getting really stuck and it is really tired, then try to think some cool stuff from already which you know, right? Maybe just take a halt from the regular learning, and then try to build something out of it. Maybe it may be very silly, maybe generic, there might be like, if you know about metrics for classification, there is a thing called like precision recall, right? Accuracy, those kind of stuff. So might be like your model is yielding a call. You have a thing called AUPRC, okay, area under curve basically. So the in which like 0.5 means very bad, okay, you have to get this to 1. So 0.5 means it's a random classifier. So if you are classifying thing, it actually not able to, separate between the classes. It is giving you random results. Okay. So maybe your first, when you try your model, you'll yield 0.5 as a UPSC score, but that should not stop you from like, building something cool. And also, I would say some site to the students. So obviously you will be no medium. There are like, towards data science is, for each on every question in the data science field, you will have an like answer. But yeah, so it's a platform in the medium, I guess. And medium is from the Twitter. The same founder of Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so towards data scientist, data science is one. Obviously, Analytics Vidya is another site, very good from India, and it has a like very good global audience as well. That's the very good part from it. Their content is so standard and so mature that like they have a lot of global audience. And obviously, there is another site that I personally follow, is Machine Learning Mastery. Okay, there is a guy called Jason Brownlee. Okay, who hosts this particular, he has like articles and blogs for each and everything, and he has some really good PDF books as well for each of the field, like NLP is deep learning and those kind of stuff. And apart from that, what I can think of, obviously, another thing, don't forget to code while you i mean learn about theories. Coding is very much necessary. You will find very, coding is necessary in a sense. I'll tell you. I'll try to explain it in a bit. So for the primary stage, when you are like trying to design a hypothesis, or maybe trying to validate something, in that particular case, maybe standard development practices, software development practices, coding, and other stuff, testing, those kind of stuff may not be handy. You might just, do it in a Jupyter notebook or something like that, any kind of notebook for that matter, right? But once you like got what you need and you have to productionize it, you need those skill. And if you have to be a very efficient data scientist in practice, and then you should be knowing those aspects as well. So particularly why I am saying this, because like people from computer science and IIT are like familiar with these, but data science, as I said, it's a, everyone, can get into this, right? So might be it happens like people from like mechanical or electrical, they might not be aware of what a kit is, what a version controlling system is. But once they have like decided to forward their career path in this particular direction, I think there should be also, get familiar with this, all these things, because essentially I mean, when they grow at maybe, I mean, it will be not needed at the very beginning, but once they grow in their career, it will be very much necessary to think, I mean, rationally, what should be the, I mean, how should you deploy a model? That's a, I mean, question that we encounter for every problem, right? I mean, you can develop a model, but deploying a model is a very essential thing. I mean, if you can't deploy it, there is no use of it. I mean, who will see your plot? I mean, if you are, so basically, if Netflix is not able to recommend you, but rather showing its executives that the like, look, that this user has maybe can recommend. I mean, we can recommend this to this person. That is of no help, right? You have to be, I mean, thinking rationally in this aspect. So that is another thing. And I'll also tell, I mean, brush up math. I mean, so as I said, we have tried to, I mean, not math and stat both. Okay, those are pretty much needed. If you have to understand, so there are two parts of it. Okay, so you will hear about lots of models. Okay, you will have Python module or Python package or any package for that matter, for which you don't have to know anything about that particular model, right? I mean, what the underlying math is, you don't have to know. You just have to know you have to pass X and you need Y, right? But that will not help you to, I mean, create any real world value. So that is why, like, knowing math, the underlying math for each of the models and each of the architectures is pretty much necessary. So if you take computer vision for an example, you will hear about CNN and kind of stuff, convolution neural networks, right? So if you just search in Google right now, dog cat classification, you will get a very good looking code in Jupyter Notebook using Keras. Okay, and over there you would find they are doing something called conv2d max pool. Okay, so you can run this, it will work for this dog classic or cat classification. But when you have to design your own model, you will not be able to comprehend what these are actually doing. So that's where you need what a max pooling is doing. It is going in a like array and picking up the maximum value. You need that math, I mean underlying math, to understand the underlying math, to get familiar with each of these processes that are involved even in this basic dog cat classification problem, right? So that is essentially, I mean, my point of telling all this, I mean, technical things is like, you have to be able to comprehend all the underlying maths, just not to train your own model, but also to hyperparameter tune, also to, I mean, so you can't skip essentially the math part of it. You would be needing linear algebra. So linear algebra is pretty much, I mean, needed in deep learning, because all the, I mean, the multi-dimensional calculation you would do, you would be, referring back to your high school linear algebra math, essentially. And so basically, I mean, and the most helpful or the most good part of it, I would say, that those math are, if you just don't like, I mean, there are some concepts which have heavy math, but for the most part of it, the math is not really very heavy. If you have like a high school understanding, you were pretty good to, I mean, capture it. So that is another good part. I mean, I would say, I mean, some concept, ML concept actually has really heavy math part, and the equation, it will just blow your head up. I mean, there are like, I mean, equation I have seen, especially the model I talked about, the SVM, support vector machine. So if you go by its math, it took me almost a year to get the whole of it. I mean, Even when I mean today I'm speaking, I like haven't been in touch with SBM model lately, so I have to again go to what dynamic problem is. I mean there are lots of things you can, so that is the thing. I mean apart from some of the math concept, there are like there are concepts in ML which are like pretty, I mean, I would say, I mean, a fair understanding of high school math would do. So in that case, so but don't skip in any which way. If you, even if you it takes, like I said, 1 year, try to get the math behind it. Otherwise, it will not get imprinted in your head. And unless and until that happens, you will not be able to come up with any real value. So that what my suggestion would be to the, I mean, aspiring data scientist, so to say. And yeah, so that is what I would say. And also for any, as I said, certification always helps. And if you think you are prepared enough, just go and upload some projects in GitHub and and include it in your resume. If that is interesting enough, and if you are applying it in a correct spot or correct company which really wants to wants the talent who can build solutions, and if your solution have that, I mean I mean what do I say, have that capability to show that, I mean then you are definitely, you will be shortlisted. Because what happens is, I mean, unless and unless, so as a fresher, and right now, I mean, I think, I mean, in especially in computer science, there is a lot of projects that are revolving around, even in graduation, I think, I mean, around AI and ML. But at our time, there were like, I can think of one group who worked in the neural net. I mean, we were pretty amazed to like know their concepts and all. But there were not a lot of projects, at least in like our BTech final year projects that we are doing. But right now, students have, I guess, that opportunity too. Right. I mean, there might be some projects in computer science and IT, which, I mean, final year projects who are doing AI and ML. And and obviously, I don't think, I mean, I have to, I mean, give advice people and coding and stuff, because I have seen the, I mean, kind of companies that students are placed into, I mean, after we have passed out. So everybody, I mean, I think knows, I mean, what's the essential essence of coding. I mean, as coding, there can be no substitute for coding, right? So and using GitHub, I mean, coding, I mean, everybody does use coding, right? I mean, in a sense or the other. But what I'm trying to say, like, whatever you do, just try to I mean, maybe just flaunt it. I'm very, I mean, using very crude language, just flaunt it. I mean, because there are a lot of freshers who are claiming uh, that they have done some projects and they have good knowledge of AI and ML, and you have to stand out. The, I would say, I mean, I personally would prefer somebody who has good GitHub projects. Okay, especially if you don't have, like, I mean, industry experience. If that I mean, uh, particular person has like industry experience as a like decision scientist, data scientist, or whatever, ML engineer, right, or working as a junior in a data science team, that is altogether different sense. So over there, but as a fresher, I think certification, good certification, always, and GitHub always helps in like I mean stand out from the other candidates.
Okay. Thank you, Jibak, for your time. And lastly, I want to ask you, do you enjoy this episode? What feedback you want to give to us?
Yeah, I mean, I like the concept very much, and what I'm very pleased to say in this platform is that, like, mm, um, I have seen, I mean, the presence, the digital presence of the current student of KGC everywhere in every field. Okay, so mm, that is what I would say. Part of it was missing in our time. Okay, the digital presence, and this whole, I mean, uh, setup, I would say, setup for, I mean, to opt between the career interests. I mean, because I have like just gone through all of your IIPC talks, right? So these concepts, I mean, these are gradually, I guess, one of the oldest the uh, this kind of thing was through Facebook only. I am not active in Facebook, so I couldn't recollect. I mean, to engage between alums and the current student, there was a Facebook page, something of that sort, as far as I remember, right? That was the first starter. So yeah, I mean, for that and through the other pages as well, when I got to know the like presence and the enthusiasm of the, I mean, not only the current student, I would say, but I have experienced like some pass out batch in the who were like the current batch at that point of time. This is evolving for KGC, so that is, I mean, I like a lot. I mean, this actually happens. So basically, if today, I mean, it has all the, I mean, I would not say all, because we, I mean, try, we must need to try to get ourselves better every day. So I mean, for a premier institution, I mean, all the presence and all these activities like these, right? So these are pretty much needed, because as I told you, I mean, at some point of my in my conversation, right? I mean, I was so the first the transition, right? So there were like seniors, obviously, but there was no such formal setup from where like everyone. So we have to be had to be very close. As well as I said, I was a hostelier, so I had that opportunity, and I was lucky enough to have seniors. But in current scenario, there is like, I mean, there is no possibility. But when you are like organizing this kind of sessions, this really helps the students to get the idea, because as we have like, I mean, shifted, or there is a paradigm shift in the whole working or the communication process, so to say. Everything is in this inset and this thing, right now. I mean, everywhere this Zoom call or Google Meet, so to say. So that is what I mean. It is pretty much necessary, the digital presence at like, as I said, industries are going through digital transformation. So, I mean, the institutions who are seeking into go, I mean, the aspirants who are in this institution, in the technical institution, also go through the digitization process, and that you have already adapted, and that is what I like very much. And again, thank you so much for having me, and it was really pleasure talking to you.